He has 17 years of municipal and financial experience in Kansas, Minnesota, and Colorado, and a check of his references revealed nothing but the highest praise. He is here for any questions that you might have. However, I do want to point out one more thing. There are evolving federal regulatory requirements for municipal financial advisors as defined by the SEC and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. It is possible that some future documents regarding Mr. Kimmel's and Eller's services will be forthcoming, and we're just asking if you could pre-approve Cheryl to sign whatever makes the feds happy. Because it's not going to be anything having to do with what he's doing for us. It's going to be whatever they need it to be. So anyway, with that, I can step aside and let you talk to Mr. Kimmel if you wish.
Well, we have people in the audience. If anybody has a comment about new business item number 4, now's your opportunity. No one coming forward. Mr. Kimmel, would you like to join us at the podium? Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here this evening.
I'm excited to be here.
Very good. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Kimmel? I guess maybe I could address this. Your qualifications recommendation from staff that we received was obviously that was very highly recommended, and I think that everybody's reviewed the information that you all provided, and we're very excited to have you on board. So I guess we're going to invite you to the podium to tell you we're glad that you and your firm decided to apply to become our new financial advisors, and we vote to approve you here in a few moments. We look forward to doing business with you over the next 5 years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
And if there's anything that you'd like to tell us by way of introduction?
Well, I think Laura covered the main points, but again, Bruce Kimmel with Ellers, and we are truly excited to be nominated to serve as your next financial advisor. We've been following Gardner very closely over the last several years, and you're really building some exciting momentum with your new city administrator and some of the things you're doing with capital improvement planning and economic development. Those are both really fortes of mine personally as well as with Ellers, and so I think we can provide a lot of value add, and we look forward to working really collaboratively, not only with you, but with city staff as well, to come up with plans and strategies and actual implementation that makes sense to you and that we can also explain very effectively to the community. So looking forward to partnering with you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Anyone?
Well, I guess as long as you brought up economic development, what can you tell us about, projections on in the past that you've made that, I guess, do you recommend callback provisions and things like that?
Yes. The world of economic development, Councilmember Fodovich, has really changed over the last 5 to 10 years in best practices, and we've all learned, we don't purport to know everything. We always learn from past experience, and we probably do more economic development than almost any other financial advisory firm. So in terms of negotiating development agreements and putting in clawback provisions and other ways to mitigate risk, we definitely advocate for that when it makes sense and would be very open to suggesting that.
Well, in the past, when we had advice from competing companies, we often looked at the revenue only and not the costs, which are much more difficult to project. Police force, manning, wear and tear on roads, things like that, which is kind of why we discussed what we discussed in the work session. How do you account for those in those calculations? Do you account for them?
We do, and it really depends on the council policies in the various communities and in the nature of the project as well. I was recently involved with the city of Merriam when they were considering the IKEA project, and their policy actually does specify a cost-benefit analysis, so we were involved with doing that. We're not traffic engineers. We would have to partner with other experts in some of these areas regarding your physical infrastructure, but we certainly have the capacity and the experience to run the numbers using that input data and coming up with, I think, some effective analysis for you.
That's all I had.
Very good.
Very quick question, it's really for staff, for Cheryl and for Laura. From the fee schedule and everything else, I assume, as we've looked at that and what the expected expenditures for the year fits within the budget amount in the 2014 budget?
Typically, his fees would be rolled into the debt issue or whatever you want the project. So there really isn't
Okay.
now, we do have some money in there for studies and
Right.
pro forma reviews and stuff, and
That would fall into here. Okay. And the fee schedule for those type of things falls in line with what we projected for our budget planning?
Yes, and
Okay.
we will probably use some of that revenue that we have in there because of the expertise that this firm brings related to economic development, and given that that's the council's goal. So we will be looking a lot closer at the strategies and making sure that we use their expertise this time.
Excellent.
I was
and
just about to mention that we're almost getting into our budget cycle.
we are.
Yes, we
We're
are.
well aware of that.
And so
Almost, we're already there.
Yeah.
But we're into it.
And so I'd like to be able to, rely on the expertise of our new financial planners to try to, get a handle on some of those projections as well.
You may have noticed a slightly compressed timeline here.
Yes,
So that-
very accurate.
exactly the point. Yes, and actually, I'd like to point out one little thing about Ellers and Bruce. They don't ask you to pay for them to come here. They don't ask for reimbursement for those things. They're part of the team, auxiliary staff. So I'm really looking forward to that. No one else offered that, by the way.
Very good. I think we've got action to consider. I'd certainly entertain a motion at this point.
I move we authorize the city administrator to execute an agreement for the professional services with Ellers and for the period beginning January 21st, 2014 through December 31st, 2016, with 2 additional 1-year renewal options, and to execute future agreements for services for federal regulations required.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Shute, that we authorize the city administrator to execute an agreement for professional services with Ellers for a period beginning January 21st, 2014 through December 31st, 2016, with 2 additional 1-year renewal options, and execute future agreements for services for federal regulations if required. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Bruce Kimmel, welcome aboard. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming this evening. New business item number 5, consider approval of revised purchasing policy.
Does anybody else work here? I don't know. I wonder. Okay.
It's not Brian's night.
Well, yeah, really.
Not any longer.
His turn. One more time. Okay, so this is at your request. We tabled the purchasing policy. There's been some rethinking and revision going on among staff. And so, per your directive, the thresholds are established per your directive to increase department director's expenditure authority from $5,000 to $10,000, the city administrator's expenditure authority from $15,000 to $25,000, and that you would approve anything having to do with $25,000 or more. That's per your directive. What we did go back and review, per the discussion that happened at the last meeting, we mentioned that there's a reluctance by bidders to engage in these smaller projects and respond to RFPs, and we felt that we might get better diversification and quality of bid responses if we broadened the informal threshold to be, we talked about all that, you're nodding, so okay. What we came up with was kind of a hybrid approach. You're not comfortable with giving Cheryl $50,000 in authority, but we'd still like to move forward with RFP processes and acquiring services at the $50,000 level. In other words, anything below $50,000 would be an informal process, and we're trying to get diversified and better responses. And then if it actually is anything over $25,000, we'd bring it to you with a recommendation for approval. And that's basically, I went through and changed all the spots in here that had to do with that. So, and we dropped off a piece about disposal of property. We're going to rework that piece. So other than that,